Right, start.
Okay, hi guys. Welcome back to our second episode of Women Who Code MCO series. So today we are going to talk about how to ace your entry-level technical interview. Your moderator today is me, Mindy. So if you can hear my pretty voice, please type in the yes in the chat box below. Alia is always the first one. All right. So I guess that's a yes. By the way, good job everyone that you have successfully survived almost 2 months of movement control order. So give yourself a clap or a pat on your back. All right. Before we start, we have a poll just to gauge all of you to see if how many of you actually applied for an entry level interview and see how many are actually affected by the MCO period right now. I'll launch the poll right now. Okay, Google, launch poll.
This is so cool.
Definitely.
All right, I could see most of you have not started looking, not much affected. Okay. All right. I'll just end the poll first. All right, so most of you have not started looking. Very, some is somewhat affected. All right, so thank you very much for your input. So if this is your first time hearing about Women Who Code, it is actually a non-profitable organization which was started in San Francisco. So the Kuala Lumpur chapter actually started in 2014 with the main aim to inspire more women to excel in their tech careers. All right, so before we start, let us walk through some house rules. Okay, so as you can see, this session will be recorded. So don't worry if you have missed out some part. If, for example, in the middle, your mother asks you go and wash your laundry or actually throw some rubbish, please go ahead. Okay. Then we will be posting up this recording up on our Facebook page, our Women Who Code Kuala Lumpur Facebook page. If you haven't followed us, please check out. We have also our MCO series, the first one. I will go through that later. But the second thing is that I want to bring up is you can see there is a chat button, a Q&A button, as well as a raise hand button below. So the difference between this is that the chat button is just for general questions. If you want to say my voice is pretty, you can say that in the chat button. Then in the Q&A button, it's more for the specific question related to this series. Then the raise hand button is if you still feel very bored, you don't want to chat, you want to talk to us. At the end, we'll have a 15 minutes Q&A. You can raise your hand and we'll unmute you. All right? Okay. So as mentioned just now, we had our first MCO series last Saturday, and the video recording is up on Facebook. It's about how to get started freelancing in IT. So feel free to check it out. Okay, let's move on to our agenda. So we'll split our session today into two parts because our topic today is to cater for people who have just graduated from IT field or computer science. or people who are just self-taught developers, as well as junior developer who have probably like 1 or 2 years of working experience. So we'll split this session up into two parts. The first session, we'll talk about the technical stuff. Then we'll have a 5-minute break for you to take a break or drink some water or go to the toilet. Then the session 2, we'll continue to talk about the non-technical stuff to how do you ace your first entry-level technical interview. Then before we wrap up, we'll have a 15 minutes Q&A for all of you to ask questions. So throughout the session, if you have any questions related to this session, just feel free to fire them up in the Q&A chat box. Then we will collect and answer them accordingly. All right. Okay. Just something, next week we will also have another MCO series. It will be about people who does not come from a technical background, but who wish to transition into that and how to get noticed. All right, so that's all for the slide sharing. Okay, let's just move on to introduce our wonderful ladies panelists today. Shall we start with Hoi Shan first?
Sure.
You want to introduce yourself to them?
Hi, my name is Hoi Shan. I'm the business development manager for Grooves, a Japanese company based here. Yeah, so under that, I work for the product called Forkwall. Maybe some of you guys have heard it, but what we try to do is help software developers work abroad, as we believe that working abroad brings more diversity and more perspectives that could help you. And oftentimes, I'm also very highly involved in the hiring process as I help software developers find jobs. Internally as well, I am the HR for our small company. So yeah, so in terms of involvement of hiring and et cetera like that, I would say that I'm more involved on that area. Yeah.
All right, let us go with Yen Ping. Ping.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ping, and I am a software engineer. And currently, I'm working for Naluri. It's a digital health company.
Okay. How about Yongxian?
Hello, everyone. I'm Yongshen. I'm also a software engineer. I mainly build web and mobile applications. So I've been working in this industry for about 4 to 5 years now. And somehow my boss will always ask me to get involved in the process of hiring fresh grads or new interns. So yeah, I might be able to give a few words about that. Yeah. Thanks.
That's great. All right, Wendy.
Hi everyone, I'm a developer. I mostly work on websites and web development. So I'm quite interested in web design. So lately I've been focusing more on the front end. And I started off my career in enterprise software. Then I moved on to startup. Now I'm back in enterprise. So yeah.
All right. Hope you are feeling good about that. Okay, so let's move on to talk about our session 1 topic, the technical stuff. Okay, so Hoi Shan, I'll take it as an example. Since you mentioned you are a business development manager somehow, right? So you are technically the first person who filters the potential candidate. All right, so I'll take 3 types of candidates here as an example. What would you expect, or what do you think a company would expect from a fresh grad with qualification in IT? How about on a junior developer who has probably 1 or 2 years of working experience, as well as a self-taught developer? So this person might be someone who have attended some boot camps or managed to get some certificates online. So on your viewpoint, what do you expect from this type of these 3 types of candidates?
Okay, so first off, I'll start with the fresh grad that has the qualifications of, or that did your bachelor's in IT,
Yep.
as well as the one that self-learned, okay? So for me, when we're looking at hiring technical people, we don't exactly look at your qualifications. I would say that it's the first filter, like at least you have it. But what we look more towards is your ability to gain knowledge. So what that means is, as a fresh grad, we don't expect you to know every single thing or to know like how to build things independently, or every single technical skills from the front to the back in building one single thing. What we expect and what we want to see is your curiosity and your attributes to learning. So how that can be presented in your resume, one of the ways is, for example, you say, I am totally interested in front end, right? And I have researched into this part about it, and I have tried building this by myself. So those type of attributes in terms of like proving that, not proving, I would say representing your motivation and your attribute of learning is what we look for mostly in everyone. In terms of someone who doesn't have the qualifications, honestly, at least for my company, we don't really look at what qualifications you have. It's at the end of the day, what can you do? And if you can show that, you know, in terms of what you can do, that's what we look for.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. How about from Yongxian? Do you have something to talk about?
I think I have some common points with Hoi Shan. Just that from a fresh grad with IT or computer science degree, usually I would look at if they have relevant project experience. So for college degrees, they normally have final year projects. So we would look at that, or if they went for internship, and that's a good experience as well, because usually what you do in internship, it means that you have the practical experience of it, not just the theoretical and go to exam type. But for the self-taught developers, like some, they just attended some online courses or boot camps, then maybe a little bit different from the fresh grads, but would ask them more about their understanding on the coding fundamentals, like the programming concepts, whether they already have a grasp of it, instead of just like in boot camps, they usually just send you, okay, you need to know how to use this particular framework and build an app with it. So sometimes these people might not have fundamental knowledge on what are the programming concepts. So might want to look into that. Yeah, I think that's my point.
Okay. How about Yanping? Oh, how about Ping?
It's fine. I can go with both. I totally agree with what Hoi Shan and Yong-Shen has mentioned, but I think I would emphasize more on attitude, because like being a fresh grad, you don't really have much experience. So the like eagerness to learn, the like whether you are able to learn independently, that's also another thing that is quite useful to have. And how you can showcase that is like, have you tried out certain like technologies that are not taught in uni? Have you participated in hackathons? Are you engaged with like the developer communities and organizing things? Like, so all this kind of showcase your attitude towards learning. So yeah, I think that's one major thing for me.
All right. How about Wendy?
Oh, I actually share Genping's sentiments. where I feel like as a entry level, whatever you learn in school probably is not going to be entirely applicable at work. So what employers want to look for is to see how much you can tackle the learning curve. So like he says, if you have hackathons and you kind of go outside your curriculum, or you take your curriculum to the next level, it shows that you can climb a learning curve, which you will definitely face in your first job. So attitude to learn, and also some showcase of your ability to learn is important, no matter where you're from.
Thank you. So I guess all four of you mentioned something about showcasing, right? So if this person has just graduated, do you think the person should bring a portfolio to the interview? For example, this is already a technical interview. Should the person bring in a portfolio showcasing about their university achievements or any projects that they have already worked on last time? Or should they show something like their side projects other than the academic achievements? Can we start with Yongshen?
Okay, so to me, actually, university assignments are usually too small to count. Like they are usually very small scope and not so important. Academic achievement also, we don't put so much importance into that. But maybe if we have multiple candidates that have one have slightly better academic achievement, that might give him or her a slight advantage lah. But the most important one, I think, is still on their projects. So if let's say they have completed a final year project or an internship project, or even a bootcamp project, any kind of side project would be very good to showcase, like to show your enthusiasm, and if you are persistent to build something, to complete a project. But then also, if you have a GitHub profile, but then inside there is just you are forking the others' GitHub repos and not doing anything about it, then I think it's not so useful lah. So unless you have your side projects and then you put it in GitHub, that would be a great one.
All right. Thank you. Can we go with Hoi Shan?
Sure. So a portfolio, I would say, is a bonus. It essentially showcases like your ability to do something, or showcases that you have already did something. But I wouldn't say that it's essential, in my opinion. As a fresh grad, on the hiring manager side, like we already know that you are a fresh grad. Like we know that you don't have the skill sets, and that's like having a portfolio would increase your chances of getting shortlisted, because it goes back to my point where I just mentioned, it showcases your attitude. If you really had the attitude to learn, and if you're really interested in, say, coding and this sector, I would think that you would come up with your own side projects. So I wouldn't say it's essential, but I would say that it is definitely a bonus, because it proves that at least you know how to do something, and also it proves that you have that certain attitude and motivation, self-motivation to learn. Yeah.
Okay. How about Ping?
Yeah, I think they pretty much covers everything I would like to say.
Okay. Wendy, you have something to say?
Yeah, for me, like portfolio and projects, right, is actually a jumping off point for like more questions for the interviewer to know you more. So sometimes I get asked about my portfolio, but I don't have to show it. They just want to know, they just want to cover some areas they don't know about you, like how do you solve problems? Did you work in a team before? How did you like learn a totally new language by yourself, like that? So portfolio gives you like the experience and the stories you need to tell the the employer how you handle this situation. So maybe do it also for yourself. You may not have to show it, but you have some, some experience to talk about lah. So I think like just do it is a good experience anyway. And then you can also know whether you like doing this, you like doing web development or Flutter or mobile development.
Yeah, just for them to try what they like.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is if a candidate is about to go for an interview, do they need to focus on learning the algorithms or data structures, best practices, or they should just follow on the job scope saying there's a specific programming language over there, then they just follow that and learn from it? What do they need to focus on? We can start with Ping.
I think there's a lot of different kinds of like technical interviews. Like some companies may have whiteboard interviews. Some may have like a take-home technical assessment that you need to do. So I think it depends on the situation, but at the very least, you should cover like the basics, OOP and data structures and like queries and stuff. So that when you do go into the technical interview and like the manager asks you technical questions, you're able to handle them. So I think even for technical assessments that are done online, there are a lot of platforms that you can practice on, like Codility and LeetCode and so on. So the preparation would depend on what kind of technical interview it is, I think.
All right. How about Yongxian?
For me, because I also know that they are still fresh, they are still very new. So let's say if my company is hiring a React developer or React Native developer, we won't expect them or to have learned that in college or have figured out on their own. It's okay if they don't even know the language, but I think it's still very important, like to know like the important concepts, like what Yanping has said, that the OOP, functional programming paradigms, like what the fundamental things, and also the data structure. So but you don't have to memorize like each data structure or each algorithm does what or how exactly it is, but you have to have a rough idea of what are the tools that you can use. Like, okay, when you have this problem, then which data structure would suit better, then you just have to know what to Google when the problem comes to you. So to me, it's more like you have to have a good understanding of what you have learned, like the programming concepts. Yeah. So more on that, but not on the specific language or framework.
Okay. I guess Yongxian, you mentioned about the understanding of those concepts, right? Do you think if it is just enough to know the theory, then the candidate is good to go?
By just knowing the theory, I think that there's still a distance from you particularly implementing it in your code. So this one can be seen when we have a technical task for you to solve. So we will ask, okay, which way do you think is better, or which direction will you approach? So we are more interested to know the thought process of that.
Okay. I see Hoi Shan just now was trying to say something. You have something to say?
No, I just want to add on that, you know, as a fresh grad, I understand that in school you learn a lot of theoretical knowledge of how to do things, right? But I want to say that having programming language, like having knowledge in programming language alone does not qualify that you can write code for industry standards. Because there are so many different ways that you can write code to achieve the same outcome. And I think what's more fundamental is learning the best practices as well as the basics, which Ping and Yongshen has mentioned, which is, you know, like design patterns or like OOP, like learning like the best practices and the fundamentals is the most important, because from then on, they can see your potential. Okay, at least you know how to code, like best practices. I can teach you and nurture you into the culture that that company has for their programming. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. How about Wendy?
Like whether algorithm and all that is important to learn.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you encounter some technical interviews that will ask you these questions lah. So I was in situations where I don't know it or I don't know it. Like if I try to like think about how to structure the algorithm, the answer in the end is still wrong. So I think it pays to learn a bit lah, to just safeguard yourself against interviews like that. But there are also some interviews that totally avoid these questions. They just want to see if you can develop an app or not. So I think like just spread your net wide lah. Just cover some data structures, cover some like the ones that everyone else said before me. Object oriented. Those are very popular things that if most of the candidates know, then it's good for you to know also.
Okay. So the next thing I want to ask is like, you mentioned about popular, right? So is there any common or popular programming language that it's common for other companies that they are looking for right now in the market? Wendy?
I think JavaScript is quite popular. I saw a lot of Java and .NET vacancies also. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I see lah. Those are the ones that are hiring the most. And I think people learn there's C also, C++. I think these are things students learn in school, so maybe some people will not find it like totally new thing.
Okay. How about Hoi Shan, from your viewpoint of hiring people? What is the popular ones?
So I think the best indicator for me would be Stack Overflow to tell you what is the most popular and trending technology. So I'm just going to paste that link in the group. You can see in 2019 what are the most popular tech stacks. Honestly speaking, I would say it really depends on the company and what are you interested in, or what is the application. So first off, you have like startups, right, that probably are built on web-based. And I would say one of the most common languages out there is PHP or Python, or JavaScript, or even Ruby, right? But then you also have enterprises, right? They're built on a different tech stack, I would say. And for those in terms of web, you have like Java or Scala, right? And it also depends. Some companies may be only mobile-centric technology, right? So you have native programming languages for that. You can have Java, you can have C++, Swift, or even Android, Kotlin, right? So it really depends on what the tech stack is of the company and what they're built on, web or mobile, and how big are their companies, right? Usually enterprises tend to use more older technologies, where startups, because they want to build fast, they might be using a more scalable and faster technology. So it really depends from company to company.
Yep. Thanks for the input. The next thing I want to ask is if, for example, a person, or for example, I take myself as an example. If I saw a job posting, there's a lot of new technologies as a fresh grad that I have no experience working on. Should I apply, or should I test everything out and read about it and prepare myself until I'm really ready, then only I go and apply? Is there any input from your end, Ping?
I think you should apply, especially if it's like a technology stack that you are interested to work with. Because I mean, being a fresh grad, you probably don't really have much experience, and perhaps the things that you've learned in uni are, it already covers all the basics, and no matter what programming language is required, the basic fundamentals are like more or less the same. It's just a different like syntax that you need to get used to. So as long as you have the attitude to learn, and you are willing to learn, I don't think companies will like keep you away just because you don't know this tech stack. Yeah. So definitely apply. Spread your net wide. Yeah.
All right, thank you. How about Yongshin? What do you think?
I mainly agree with what Ping has already shared. Like if you already know something, like if you want to build a web app, then you might already know how to build it with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And then, okay, this company that you're applying is using React or Angular. Then even though it's different and you have not learned that before, but you can already apply many of the concepts that you have already learned before, and you can do the knowledge transfer and mapping to that new library or framework. So I think it's okay, because like now the tech stack is ever changing. So it's not practical for companies to just expect, oh, right before you come in, you must already master this, and this. So yeah, that's my point.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the next question I would like to ask is that I'll just get something from the Q&A. Someone was asking how many types of technical interviews potentially will be there. Any inputs from Hoi Shan or Wendy?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Okay, so how many rounds of technical assessments typically will there be, and how they can prepare?
Okay, so how many technical assessments will there be? Honestly, there's no answer to this. It really depends on the company. I have seen companies that have no technical assessments, and I have seen companies who have 9 technical assessments before going through. So honestly, it really varies. In terms of preparing for your technical assessments, I do have a few resources to share. Have you guys heard of Front-End Masters? So honestly speaking, I think that they are kind of a great resource to pick up for your technical interviews. It is paid, but I also think that though it is paid, it is quite worth it to invest in yourself in getting a good job, right? And I have a few other resources, but I'll let others speak, and then I can paste it on the chat while I search it up. How about that?
Sure. How about Wendy? Do you have any recommendations or any good resources that's available?
Yeah. I saw one, like some companies, they expose their interview rounds, so they are very transparent about what you expect first. So most of the time, like in my experiences, they will go through a telephone screening with you. Like, this is not just technical assessment, it's the whole start to end. They'll use either video or phone screen and get to know you first. This one, I guess, Hoi Shan does this often. And then after that, they will get like their engineers to come and speak with you, and they will kind of ask like, what's your experience, what's your background, you know, why do you want to apply for this job? So you should prepare answers for those things, do some research on the company, and know what they're doing. Don't like, your website also I haven't gone to yet. So check out their online presence. And then after that, they might ask you to do like either a whiteboard test. So what that is they give you like, I have maybe an array of integer. I want you to rearrange, like sort it or sort it reverse. How would you do it? Then you have to just write it on the whiteboard or on a piece of paper. Or they might sit you down and say, this is an assignment. I want you to create a web app that can create like a to-do, delete a to-do, and then by the end of 2 or 3 hours, I want to see the result. So those are the kinds of things that you can expect also. Then after that, if you pass, you might talk to the senior engineers or CTO, the higher C-level people. If you're in a startup, I guess that's likely to happen. And then you get offer.
Okay. Yeah. I think just now Ping was mentioning about lead code, and there's one more about
Codility. I pasted the link in the chat.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. How about Yongshan? Do you have any recommendations do you want to give to the audience?
I think my recommendation is the same as what Hoi Shan has shared. I really like the front-end master's course. Like, it's a little bit more expensive than the others, but they give a really good fundamental knowledge, and it's very comprehensive also, like on CSS, which I'm still kind of bad at it. Yeah, I always will go to there, and then they have very structured course of learning from the beginning until the end. So for if you're interested to learn about front end part, I think it's a very good place to start. But otherwise, I think because I'm more on the front end side, so I might not know what resources will those people who would want to learn more on the back end stuff. Yeah. But for front end, there is another one called Egghead, EGGHEAD. Yeah, I can paste that, egghead.io. So here is more on if you want to learn some shiny new library or frameworks, you can usually find the course there. I think it's pretty good as well.
All right, thank you very much. There is also a question about anxiety when doing live coding. So for example, if it's in this scenario, right, I'm already inside the interview, then they gave me an algorithm question and I couldn't finish it. Is there any way I could tackle this kind of situation? Hoi Shan, do you want to start this?
I'm trying to gather my thoughts around it.
Okay, we can start with
so,
okay.
okay. So during a live coding session, you cannot finish it, right? Okay, so honestly speaking, I think this varies between companies of how they would approach it. I know like some enterprises, when you are not able to finish it, they straight out just disqualify you, which is a sad reality, but that's what big entities do. I think a reason for that is because they might have a lot of applications coming through. But then I also have seen smaller companies, right? Or I would say more a different tech culture company where instead of you might have that anxiety. Okay, wait. So let me talk from the company's perspective. For them, I think what they care about is how you're solving the problem. what is your thought process of solving the problem? They don't really care if you finish it or not. Thought process. Now, to address your anxiety during your live coding. So I don't know, this is a tip from me. When I have anxiety, like for example now, I would think of it as they're just another human being, you know? They're just another person that might not know what you don't know as well. Like both of you might not know the answers, and you're just trying to figure it out. And think of it as like an open discussion to figure it out. Like at the end of the day, during a live technical interview, I think what you should take back, whatever the results are, is, okay, during this live technical interview, I faced this and I was unfamiliar with this. Take it back home and learn more about it. I would say there's no such thing as I just go to one interview and I will land it. It's a continuous process of going through different interviews and understanding different methods of technical interviews or any other interviews, and learning from those experiences, and then at the end will land you the job that you would like.
All right, thank you very much. I think Yongshan just now was also mentioning about thought process, right? Yeah, do you have any input on this?
Yeah, like usually during the technical interviews, we wouldn't expect the candidate to know everything, to know every answer, but we are more interested in how he or she will approach the problem. Like if they couldn't find the ultimate correct answer, but then they can tell us what they have in their mind. Okay, maybe I know this and this, but I don't know the ultimate way to solve it. So I think it's more on the communication side, and then be honest that you don't know the correct answer, but then you can already tell what you already know. So it's more like an open discussion, like what Hoi Shan has already shared. Yeah.
How about Wendy and Ping? Any input from your side?
On anxiety.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Actually, there was one question that we prepared before this panel, and it was about like, what if someone is an introvert during the interview? You know, what if they take too long to answer and all that? So I think if you are very nervous, you will also face this problem. Like someone asks you a question, you're like, oh, I never prepared before. Then you get nervous because you feel like you're taking too long to answer. I saw some tricks before in interview to stall time. Okay, so one of the tricks is you ask for a glass of water, and then when they ask you a question, you're like, and then when you're drinking water, you think of the answer. Or maybe you're wearing glasses, right? You don't wear contact lens the day you wear glasses. Then as they ask you a question, you're like, or you take down and wipe. So you buy yourself time lah. I mean, it's a bit funny, but maybe you can, you'll store a bit of time. Then you get to, when you can have time to think of the answer, then you feel less nervous and anxious because your mind is clearer. If you don't have all these tricks, you can just be honest and say, let me take some time to think about that. I think people appreciate when you show that you are careful about your answer, and instead of just straight away give an answer. In fact, I heard in Japanese culture, maybe you can verify, Hoi Shan, the Japanese take a bit longer to answer because they like to really think about their answer. So they can take up to like a few seconds to reply. Yeah, so it's okay.
I think in Japan, I'm not too sure because honestly, I don't do the interviews for Japan. But I've done, I would say, quite a number of interviews for many positions. And honestly speaking, like, I don't mind, as an interviewer to the interviewees, I don't mind if you take a few minutes to think about the answer. Like, there's no right or wrong answer in many of my questions that I ask. And all I want to know is, what is your perspective? What is your thoughts? So, like, yeah, it's okay to take a few minutes, no worry. And in terms of being an introvert, I have to say that majority of the people in tech, or I would say programmers, I would say are introverts. But what is most essential is communicating your thoughts. I would say communication is very key. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or not. As an introvert, what companies look at is your communication ability as well. Because think about it, if you are unable to communicate your thoughts or your feelings, how are you going to work in a team, right?
Yep.
And usually to build a product, you need to build it in a team. You don't build it alone. So I would say as an introvert, it's okay to be an introvert. It's okay to take a few minutes. But most essential is attitude and communication abilities.
All right. Thanks, Hoi Shan, for the great advice. Ping, do you have anything you want to talk about before we have our break for 5 minutes?
Oh, I think they pretty much covered everything.
All right. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So guys, we're about to have our intermission break for 5 minutes. So just go ahead and have a break. Then we'll continue after this at I think 2:58. All right. Thanks.
So for the speakers, there are a couple of questions on Q&A. If you can reply them, we can type the answers over there. I'm not sure if Mindy will pick it up. Once you typed it, it will go to answered section, or if there's anything you want to add, you can add on to those answered as well.
All right, we'll come back. Shall we continue the second session? All good? Okay. So, I think someone mentioned about red flags during interview. I think I will cover that later. But the first thing I want to ask is that for an entry level role, some say the hiring managers are looking for talents, not the experience. Could you elaborate on what talent means from your point of view? Shall we start with Ping?
I think what it means is essentially, well, at least for me, when I'm hiring fresh grads, what I would look more at is the attitude, whether you're eager to learn, whether you learn fast, whether you are capable of like handling things yourself, as in you know how to Google for answers that you solutions that you don't really know how to approach. Yeah, so essentially it's mainly that whether you are moldable, right? Whether you are able to learn from experience, learn on the job fast. Yeah, that's essentially what I would look for.
How about Wendy? Any
About
inputs
talent,
from-
is it?
Yeah.
Or how talent is important in choosing a candidate?
Some they say some are looking for talents but not the experience. How important is that?
Oh, okay. As a fresh grade, I guess that makes sense because you don't have a lot of experience. But talent is quite a fluffy term, right? Like what is talent actually? How can you tell, especially in tech? But what I see is people can kind of pin you as talented if you are very well versed in your in like a certain programming knowledge. You know, like wow, they know how to do memory management or that. So these are people who take things to the extra mile, and it's actually underlying is because they're very passionate about what they do. So I think that talent is just a way for passion to show through. You know, and of course you need to put hard. If you're interested in something, you will put hard work into it, and then people can see it.
Yep.
Yeah. So GitHub and all that is the interface for the employers to see that you are very passionate about something.
So you mentioned about GitHub, right? So is it important to have this kind of online presence for hiring managers to go through? Like just now you mentioned GitHub. Other than that, do we have other platforms that we can show the online presence? Yongxian?
I think other than GitHub, you can also have your LinkedIn profile. You can furnish up your education, your community experience, and things like that. And also LinkedIn is where you can post something like what you post on Facebook, but more professionally related stuff to show that you're really passionate into software development. So other than that, like if you show that okay, you're actively joining the community like Women Who Code, or you participate in a lot of events, you are willing to go out to these events and help out, or even just to learn something, it shows that you are passionate to learn. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, back to Hoi Shan. What is the criteria as a hiring manager? What do you think got you your first technical job? Or not technical job, maybe.
Okay, so to give a little background, I did not have any technical experience. Though now I may sound that like I know everything, but honestly speaking, I don't code. Well, I code a little bit, but not a lot. And I think the criteria of landing your first job will go back to what I mentioned earlier, which is the drive, your passion. If you have the drive and it gets shown and there is proof of your drive, I think it will definitely help you with your first technical job. In addition to that, I have a tip for everybody, which is something I use personally. It doesn't only apply to technical roles, it applies to business roles or any literature roles, etc. like that, which is if you're truly interested in one job, say this company, you will find all your ways you can to know more about the company. And one of my ways of getting to know that is through contacting the employees of that company on LinkedIn and asking them, hey, I'm interested in your company. Would you like to have coffee? And you can just ask the questions and get to know more about the company, which will help you to your advantage when you're doing an interview with them, as well as understand what you're getting yourself into before getting into your first job, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Back to Wendy, Yongshin, and Ping, something to ask about. Have you encountered someone, your peers or your friends, who is technically good but got rejected due to non-technical reasons, like behavior or attitude issues? Can we start with Wendy?
No, I don't know. I don't know someone like that. I know the opposite lah, but I don't know someone who got rejected because they are good.
How about Ping or Yongshin? None?
For me, I have encountered person like this before. Like that person is actually technically quite well versed, but then we find that like somehow this candidate has a very carefree behavior. Like we can feel that this person is not taking the problem seriously. So we can know that it's like when we ask this person, okay, why he or she solve it this way, then they cannot answer it properly. Then somehow you can hear answer like, does it even matter? It works. So it's actually a red flag for the company and for the interviewer that, okay, this person is not taking his work very seriously. So this is something that even though that person is technically very good, we would consider to avoid this person as much as we can. Yeah, I think that's from my experience.
Okay. Okay, the next question is, what is the biggest mistake or failure you have experienced in an interview, either as a hiring manager or when you are being interviewed last time? And what did you learn from it? Hoi Shan?
Okay, I think one of the biggest mistakes is not attempting to clarify the question that has been asked. I would say that many people, once you may hear the interviewer ask this question, and though you didn't hear it properly, you're like, oh no, I have to answer it, and then I have to maneuver my way around it, right? Which is, I would say, one of the biggest mistakes ever. If you didn't get the question, ask. And if you still don't get it, ask. Keep asking. In my opinion, an interview is never a one-way relationship. It's always a two-way relationship where you're having a conversation with someone, where someone is getting to know you better. If you don't have that type of mentality of, having that conversation, I think it will be very hard for you to be able to impress, or I guess, the interviewer. Yeah, and I would say that sometimes when you don't understand a question, you may even ignite bad things that I would say you never intended to. So yeah, clarify the question.
All right, how about Ping?
So I made a mistake one time, and it was with a company that I really wanted to join. So one of their take-home technical assessment was quite easy. So I became a bit overconfident with it. Like, yeah, I managed to solve it. So I didn't really prep much for the follow-up discussion on that technical assessment. So then during the follow-up discussion, when the interviewer asked like deeper questions on that particular piece of work, I didn't answer it really well. So then that was the end of like the interview process. So yeah, so I guess the lesson I've learned from that is to always over prepare for interviews. Like no matter how easy it is, you can never prepare too much, I think. Yeah.
How about from Wendy or Yongshen?
Okay, I made a mistake that it didn't cost me anything, but I still consider it a mistake. So I went to interview with this company, and then they really took the time to get to know me. Like I talked to a lot of their teammates, and they were very interested in me based on the questions they asked. But in the end, I didn't accept the offer, and I didn't like send a thank you note to the people who interviewed me. Which at the time I'm just like, oh, I already sent. I don't want to continue to the HR. But after that, I'm like, ayo, I felt like I should have sent a thank you because, out of goodwill, it was a good interview. The whole experience was good. So if I were to do it again, I'd probably just say thank you.
Okay. How about Yongshen? Any input from your side?
For me is I think it's important to get feedback, like as an interviewer or as a person who go for interview. Like it is okay. Like no matter what's the result, whether they want to offer you or not, it is always good to get feedback from the interviewer after the interview has been done, so that you know what you did well and which part you can improve more. So it also helps when you go for your next interview, or when you become an interviewer, then you know where can you do better. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is about red flag. Okay, so if the hiring company was asking too many technical questions during the interview, should that be a red flag? Or if, for example, if they don't ask me any interview question at all, should it be a red flag that I should be aware of? For Hoi Shan, do you have any input?
Let me think. So the question is, what red flag should I be aware of? Is that right?
Kind of, yeah. If, for example, if they ask too many technical questions, or they don't ask any technical questions, or do you have any other inputs on what are the red flags that a candidate should be aware of during the interview?
Okay, I think going through the hiring process of the interview and your application being submitted and everything like that, you can kind of feel what the company culture is like. And it really depends on your preference. Some people hate structure and SOPs, standard operation procedures. And some companies, they have more of a relaxed type of company culture. So it really depends on you. I would say, as a person, let's say me, I personally don't like it's either black or white. Like I always believe that there are different ways around it in solving a problem. But if I realize going through my application process that there's something that, for example, say there's a I don't know, like I forgot to submit this thing, which was required, and they straight out like rejected me, then it kind of already showcases that they have a very strict SOP. And if you are prepared for that, for me, I don't really like that. But for some people, they really like it because it's either black or white. There's no gray area. So red flags, I would say, are subjectives to your liking as well as your interest. And red flags are usually portrayed during the hiring process as well, and also the company culture. So to give you a little bit more than that, one way to find out about the company culture is Glassdoor, right? So on Glassdoor, you have people reviewing about the internal company culture, and you can see if that is what you like or that is not what you like. In addition to what I've just mentioned earlier, which is reach out to the people and see if you like it or not.
Okay, I think Hoi Shan, you mentioned about company culture. There's a question from the attendees. They said, what kind of company culture, tech culture, should I look for when I started my first tech role? Do I need to care a lot about the company culture? For example, if I saw it in Glassdoor, many of the employees actually wrote negative reviews about the company, whether it's like difficult managers or they might actually micromanage. There's a lot of office politics, all this. So should I really care for if this is just my first tech role?
Okay, so to address that question, I would say that depends on you. But my advice to you is you should iron out your goals first in terms of what you want to achieve in this company, and then evaluate if that matters to you or not. Because some people, let's just say, I don't know, some people join because they just want to learn for 6 months or 1 year, right? But some other people join because they want to stay at that company for like 7 to 10 years, right? That depends on your preference, honestly speaking. If I've encountered companies where, yes, it is hard. Their company culture is hard. There's a lot of office politics, but the growth is immensely like there. Like, you know that you can grow and you know that you can learn a lot. But is that a culture you want to be in? You know, can your body withstand it? Can your mental health withstand that? Some people can, some people can't, right? It really depends on you. So yeah.
All right, thank you from Hoi Shan. How about Ping? Any inputs from your side regarding the red flags or the company culture?
I think, again, it depends on what you want. Like, let's say if the interview process, during the entire interview process, they didn't ask any technical questions, then perhaps that is a red flag. I don't know. It could indicate that you will be the only tech person in the team. So if that's what you don't want, then that would be a red flag. Yeah, but with regards to other red flags, I think to add on to what Hoi Shan has mentioned, you need to know like what you want, which areas you want to grow in as well. So during the interview process, it would be good for you to ask questions as well, like ask more questions on like how does the team work together, how the priorities get decided on, what's the growth projection like for this role that you are going to be taking on. So all these will give you like a small idea on how the team will like work, on how like the role will be like. Yeah, so it's not just the manager interviewing you for the position. You are also interviewing the manager on whether this person is like somebody that you can learn from. This person is somebody that will give you the growth that you want. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I think the time is almost running out. Let's have one about 2 questions before we begin our Q&A. So I think it's kind of a dilemma for many of the graduates, right? So as a starting point, many of them was thinking that, should I choose a high salary job, but the tech stack is not that exciting? Or should they choose a small startup or a big company, or maybe it's a tech company, but it's like they're using the legacy stuff? Or some are saying it's, for example, pharmaceutical company, but the development is not the core. Which one should they choose? Is there any advice from all of you? We can start with Wendy.
So the not exciting is quite subjective, right? Like what is it that is not exciting? Do you find like legacy systems very not exciting? You want to work on cutting edge stuff. It's kind of related to how you see yourself in 5 years, that typical question. So if you want to be working on like legacy systems in 5 years, then this job not being exciting is okay. But if you feel like you want to spend 3 years or 2 years doing legacy, but eventually you want to work on front end or cloud or data, then it really is really not relevant for you to take on this high salary job, because it's not the career path you want to choose anyway. So don't be so attracted by the high salary, because when you're starting out, your higher salary also won't be as high as your eventual high salary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. All right. How about from Yongshin?
For me, I'm the kind of person who value the tech stack a lot when I'm choosing the company. So that's almost like my first question to the company. Okay, what tech stack is this company is using? So to me, is if I see a bright future of using the tech stack, then I might as well join, even though the salary might not be as high as the others, because like you can think of it as you are gaining experience while working your way up. So it's almost like someone is paying you to learn the thing that you want. So eventually, after you have gained enough experience, then you can think again, see whether if there is chance for you to work your way up. If not, then you can start looking for your next job that suits you better lah.
How about from Ping? Any input from your end?
I think I think like for fresh grads, the options are like quite wide, and you won't truly know what you want until you've tried them out. So, if you get a chance with a big company, yeah, why don't you try that out? And if turns out that big companies are not really what you want, then there's always opportunity to like go for other interviews. So I think don't be afraid to try things out. For me personally, my sweet spot is working in like a team with 5 to 10 engineers. Then at the same time, I still get to learn from them, learn from the team, but it's not too structured, it's not too rigid, and I still have some flexibility to decide what I want to like work on. So yeah, these are things that you will likely discover after you've like gone through a few jobs. So I think, yeah.
Okay. How about Hoi Shan? Any input from your end?
Salary is something that I deal with almost every day, I would say. And I kind of understand what the fresh grad technical salary is in Malaysia. This is my advice. I mean, honestly speaking, as a fresh grad, you don't really have, I would say, the industry standards skill sets with you when you first start off. So in my opinion, I think as a fresh grad, what you should focus on is what can you learn? That's more important to me than the salary, because honestly, the starting salary for a lot of like companies are almost the same. Like, I wouldn't say they vary like few thousand ringgit. They're almost on the same level. Maybe they vary like 1 to 500 ringgit between that. But let's just say that in this company, you can learn immensely from a great team that is willing to teach you and nurture you into knowing industry practices and best practices and design patterns. I would say that 1 year later down the road, you're valued compared to the first job that you took that might have a higher salary, like say 500 ringgit difference, but you know, you don't really learn a lot, the team is not really willing to teach you. 1 year later, that person who took up the opportunity to learn much more might even have double your salary. So honestly speaking, I always feel that salary is a long-term thing. It's not a short-term thing. I mean, also depending on your priorities, but as a fresh grad and talking from my own experience as well, I think learning opportunity is more important. But by all means, like maybe you have some financial responsibilities, that salary is really important. It's your decision how you would like to balance it.
Yep. All right, I guess we can conclude our second session. We have still some Q&A questions in the chat. Perhaps the panelists could have more input on the questions.
The first one, usually startups have that one. Oh, okay. I read out the question.
All right.
Usually startups have a relatively small team compared to enterprises, but as a fresh grad, I would prefer a working environment where I can advance my programming skills by learning from my colleagues, not just by learning alone. In this case, when looking for a job, should I opt for companies with a larger tech team instead? Someone want to answer this?
I'll take it up. Okay. When you talk about larger companies, like companies that have over 10,000 employees or that are MNCs, they might not even have a large tech team. It really depends, I would say. There are different types of tech teams. Some are structured larger, like say 50 people, which is kind of rare. And some are structured and broken down into like 5 to 10 people. So I would say you should opt for companies who have those broken down teams and not as one team as a whole. Because generally speaking, if you were to join a larger company, you will be very focused and specialized in that area. You wouldn't really have the flexibility to be able to do other areas. Whereas if you're in a smaller team, you would be able to. So yeah, do opt for smaller teams.
I think the third attendee also was, the third question was also asking about, is it better to start in a startup or a big company? I guess that relates to the first one. Yeah. So any more inputs from our panelists?
Well, I think like I can say the benefits of startup is that my experience with it is you get a lot of freedom to do a lot of different things. I don't know if it applies to all startups but the one I was in. So if you want to like try something or experiment with something, right? Because it's just a small company, so there are not so many rules. So it's easier for you to try. And in fact, you could very easily be the first person to do things in a startup. And that has its pros and cons. That because you're the first person, there's no senior to guide you. You have to learn a lot of things by yourself. But because you learn it by yourself, you know a lot. So that is like the trade-off. If you prefer like guidance there, then you're kind of not say limited, but you have to walk the path that someone has already paved lah. So I think in terms of learning, it may not be as much as if you have like a free playground. You know? What you learn also must be applicable to the big company software, which probably if you're in a big company, you're limited to a very small area. So what you learn might be just this small area. Yeah, but that's according to your preference. Are you okay with being thrown into the sea and then learning how to swim, or you want people to teach you how to swim? I think it's down to a personality. If you throw me into the sea as a first job, I think I will suffer. So me going to enterprise then going to startup was, I think, the right path for me lah. Yeah.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, I also quite agree with that, because like my first job is like a company that what Wendy has described. Like the very first thing that my boss tell me is so now I put you in this project, so you either swim or die. So they almost have this as their work slogan. So it's true that I learned a lot, really a lot, but I also struggled at a lot of times when I want to look for answers, I want to seek for suggestions. I cannot look for anybody in the company, but I can only try to solve it myself. So I think it's again your preference. If you prefer to learn it this way, then it's good for you. But then later on, I realized that I prefer to learn from someone, or to learn from an established team who has already have a paved path for you, but then at the same time still quite flexible, and they are willing to hear your input. So like I can learn what is the proper software development process, and then yeah, so it again is a very personal thing. So it depends on what kind of experience you want to gain.
Okay. There's still two more questions. Are our panelists able to pick up the questions, or we should conclude the session for today?
Wow, the remaining question, the free work one, very scary. Yeah. Who which company do this can share?
The person who raised this question, do you want to reveal it?
This is very bad. I don't know. I've not, like, how much is this free work? This test code, usually when companies want you to do an interview test code, it's very simple, and I guess I'm not sure what kind of test code they can just steal from you and then put it in production. So I cannot answer this. Sorry.
About
I've not really heard of any company doing that. In addition to that, I think, honestly speaking, I think it's also kind of rare on the company side to do that, because when you submit your code, like they still need to review it, and they concurrently are reviewing a lot of other codes as well. And honestly speaking, I think they might have other priorities at hand, usually for the hiring managers that I know, that it's kind of rare that they would do such practices. I think that this type of practice is not common in the developer world as well. It's not a good practice. So if a company were to do that, I think it would taint their image quite instantly. So I, in my opinion, would think that a company would not do that to prevent any measures, of bad
Yep.
image.
Okay.
I think I remember one interview, not me lah, someone else. Yeah, so he actually part of his interview process was to develop not test code but actually work with the team to develop some very small feature. But that's like across a week lah, and they say they will pay him, which they did in the end lah. But before they pay, I asked like, how do you know they're going to pay you? Then he's like, don't know. So I guess it's really down to trust in that sense lah.
All right. Thank you. There's also one last question was about how to recognize and differentiate a company that needs real tech employee instead of the IT skills.
I think I want to clarify what a real tech employee is to whoever asked that question. And what is your definition of real tech employee, and what is your definition of IT skills?
Yep. The person asking this question, do you want to speak up, or should we just conclude the session?
If you don't know how to speak up, you can raise your hand on the below bar.
Yeah, you can raise your hand, then we will unmute you.
Yeah, just want to put it out there.
Normally, we see they need software engineer, but in the requirement, they say that.
I guess you can differentiate that from the job posting then.
Yeah.
I actually have come across such thing. Not this extravagant towards like what you're gonna do is Microsoft Word, but I have encountered where a company was asking for, what was it? I think they were asking for like a backend engineer, like a Ruby developer. But then the tech stack that they were asking, or in the requirements of what they were asking, was actually a front end position. So you can kind of know when the company knows what they're putting up or not by reviewing their job description. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for our panelists for spending the time to answer all of our questions, as well as those of you who joined today. So after this session, we will be sending a feedback form just to get your feedback on our session on this week as well as last week. We will be having another series next week, Saturday. The time is yet to be confirmed, but it's to cater for those who wish to transition into a tech career, which they are pretty much not coming from a tech background. So, all right. So I guess we can end this session. Thank you very much to be part of this. Stay safe, rest well, and have a nice weekend. Bye.